In exactly 2 weeks from now, each and every single NBA team is expected to finalize their rosters in hopes of potentially making a run to the NBA playoffs. Some teams are extremely close to that mark and appear to be in an arms race to add as much talent as they possibly could to really maximize their chances of winning the NBA Finals, whereas other teams feel like they might be a piece or two away from really breaking into contention. The New York Knicks have completely surprised each and every NBA fan. After a mere decade in mediocrity, save for one remarkable season featuring Carmelo Anthony really turning into Hoodie Melo for an entire year, the New York Knicks are finally in the picture for the Eastern Conference playoffs for the first time in a very long time. They've been doing this on the backs of Tom Thibodeau, Julius Randle, and a couple of very shrewd roster decisions by their brand new general manager and former agent, Leon Rose. However, they even came out and admitted that they are not even close to being finished in terms of trying to make more moves to really put their team in the best position to succeed in the future. You have the Golden State Warriors, who were supposed to be an absolute joy to watch this season before tragedy struck at the hands of Klay Thompson, going down with a torn Achilles tendon after tearing his ACL and being very close to being ready for playing this entire NBA season. And as a result, they are in and out of the playoff picture. They're literally dancing within the line, and more likely than not, they will be in the play-in tournament. However, if they could get another ball handler to assist Steph Curry and take some pressure off of him, then they will greatly maximize their chances to make a dent and to run in this year's NBA playoffs, let alone appear in the NBA playoffs. Then you have a team like the Boston Celtics, who are definitely falling short of their own expectations this season, whose fan base is fairly frustrated at the fact that Danny Ainge hasn't really made any big moves to improve the roster. This comes on the heels of just not having moves pan out their way. I have to tip it to Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. They've made some really good decisions. They just haven't panned out. Trading for Kyrie Irving a couple years ago was a great decision. Letting Al Horford walk was a great decision. Signing Kemba Walker, they had the right idea over there. Unfortunately, things just haven't fallen their way. All three of these teams are slated to make huge decisions and huge moves within the next 2 weeks. And there's so many things that we need to discuss that I had to compile all this information into one video. So before we dive into it, I just want to let you guys know, at 1,000 subscribers on my Laced Up podcast, link in the description down below, I'm going to be announcing my 2 other co-hosts. It's something you guys will absolutely love. It's going to melt your brain. I'm really excited about it. So take a moment to go ahead and subscribe to that. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. My absolute favorite dark horse trade commodity in the NBA this year is a man by the name of Nikola Vucevic. And he's one of my favorites because he's one of those players that really flies under the radar. Why? Because he plays for the Orlando Magic, and unfortunately, most people don't pay attention to what the Orlando Magic are doing. You don't need to be some sort of deep statistical genius to figure out why Nikola Vucevic is a huge commodity in today's NBA. Just a mere look at his basic statistics will tell you everything that you would need to know. Vucevic is currently averaging a career high 24.6 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game, and is shooting an absurd 41% from 3 and 49% from the field. Now you might be saying, okay, Mike, maybe he just got lucky and maybe he's not making a lot of threes or taking a lot of threes. Well, this man is averaging 6.5 three-pointers a game. Obviously, basic statistics never tell the full picture, so I'm going to show you guys my favorite advanced analytics. Nikola Vucevic has positive box plus minus numbers for both offense offense and defense, with a 5.9 on the offensive side and a 0.1 on the defensive side. His value over replacement player is a 2.5, and once again, his player efficiency rating is a 24.2 this year. And while the Boston Celtics appear to be extremely interested in Vucevic, he doesn't want to leave Orlando. He recently said this in an interview: "I'm happy where I am. When I re-signed with the Magic, I knew it was going to be a process, and I knew we weren't going to turn into a championship team right away. It's unfortunate that we've had all of these injuries. I think we are headed in the right direction, but we have lost two very important players in Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac for the season. If we were healthier, our goals would be much different and we could achieve much more, but that's just part of the journey and unexpected things are going to happen." Vucevic currently has 2 more seasons remaining on his contract, but that is not the only player that the Boston Celtics are looking into, because currently they're also looking into the Sacramento Kings small forward Harrison Barnes, a former #1 high school recruit in the 2011 high school recruiting class. Harrison Barnes has been a decent scorer / role player for the majority of his career. This year, he's averaging 16.7 points, 6 rebounds, and 3.6 assists, shooting 49% from the field and a 39% clip from 3, despite attempting 4.3 threes per game. So why are the Celtics expected to trade for him? Well, most executives expect the Celtics to trade for him because 1, the Sacramento Kings are in seller mode, and 2, the Boston Celtics could desperately use some help in addition to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I'd assume that either Harrison Barnes would be coming off of the bench, or they're going to try to run a small ball lineup with Tatum at the power forward position, Barnes at the small forward, and Jaylen Brown at the shooting guard position. Speaking of the shooting guard position, the Golden State Warriors would definitely like some help alongside Steph Curry to at least give him the adequate amount of support in order for him to potentially make somewhat of a playoff run. And according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, that form of help could come in form of Victor Oladipo. The Warriors, as of 2 days ago, are rumored to be very interested in trading for Rockets guard Victor Oladipo, which makes a lot of sense because Houston wants to get rid of Victor Oladipo in any way, shape, or form, because it's a foregone conclusion that Oladipo is going to leave the roster at the conclusion of this year's season. This makes sense because Golden State does not have the cap space to pursue Oladipo this summer, so the time to pounce on Victor Oladipo would be now. Houston can't really demand too much in a deal given that Oladipo hasn't really been so good this year and is going to be an unrestricted free agent, and Golden State wouldn't really have a lot to offer either. The Warriors would be able to deal up to 2 first-round picks, which is the 2021 via Minnesota this year, or 2022, and their next picks are in 2026 or 2027. And this is so they could find a player that could fill the void of the ball handling abilities that both Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston had with the Golden State Warriors during their tenure there. However, there is a big issue. Victor Oladipo isn't close to the size of Andre Iguodala or Sean Livingston, nor does he play any of the positions that they played. Of course, Sean Livingston was a point guard at some point, and they played Andre Iguodala at the point guard position as well as a point forward, but I digress. My issue with this report is the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves draft pick is currently the most valuable draft pick in the entire NBA draft, and if it falls outside of the top 3 picks, then the Golden State Warriors will have the number 4 pick in an NBA draft that features Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, and Scotty Barnes. So are they really willing to part with the Minnesota Timberwolves pick just so they could get a player that might leave them in the summer that, with all due respect, hasn't really showed me that he's better than being a shell of his former self? Well, Bob Myers even came out and said openly that he expects to be extremely aggressive at the trade deadline, but they wouldn't be the only team that is also targeting an additional guard. You see, the New York Knicks, according to NY Post Berman, are also eyeing the trade market for an additional point guard, even though they just recently acquired Derrick Rose. And according to this source, which apparently is a New York Knicks beat writer, they are eyeing the trade market for Terry Rozier, Lonzo Ball, and Victor Oladipo as they make their playoff push. Now, personally, this report's a little sketchy to me, because at the time that I'm recording this video, the New York Knicks have Derrick Rose, Austin Rivers, Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina, Emmanuel Quickley, Alec Burks, and RJ Barrett. All 7 of those players are guards, although they play RJ Barrett as a bit of a forward as well. So I guess my question would be, who would you trade in return for a player like Victor Oladipo, Lonzo Ball, or Terry Rozier? On top of that, are the Charlotte Hornets really going to be willing to part with Terry Rozier despite him having a breakout season for them? Or are the New Orleans Pelicans really going to be down with trading away Lonzo Ball despite him recently becoming some sort of remarkable three-point shooter all of a sudden? Then you have Victor Oladipo, who is a surefire pick to either sign with a contender, which I see the Golden State Warriors even being able to potentially convince him to stay after trading for him, or leave for the Miami Heat. So why would you trade a couple of players unless if a player like Kevin Knox will get you Victor Oladipo for a player that's essentially going to be a rental for 3 months? I'll admit, I think the New York Knicks part of this video is probably the part that I'm the most skeptical on, but the first two reports seem to make a lot of sense to me. So let me know in the comment section down below, 1, what do you think about the report that I just gave you? And 2, what do you think about this new video format? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.